Aloha mai kupuna.
Aloha.
Ai. Mahalo I ko hoʻokipa ana mai ia mākou.
Mahalo nui ia'o kou.
Ai, mahalo. E ni nau ka Waiaʻōpae ma ka ʻōlelo haole, mua a mahape ma ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi. Tutu, your full name, please, and date of birth.
My name, Marian Ku ʻiʻaloha Kaopuiki Kanipae.
Ai. And when were you born?
Hanau, I was born at Kahalepalaoa, Lānaʻi.
Oh yeah.
At
Kahalepalaoa.
Kahalepalaoa,
Ai.
Lānaʻi.
And what year and date?
The year of 1915.
Ai.
The month November 23.
Ai. Oh, and so you just had your...
My birthday.
Ai. 92 years old. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah,
What was your papa's name?
my father's name was Daniel Saul Kaopuiki Senior.
Ai. And was he from Lānaʻi also?
Yeah, he was born in Kainehe, Lānaʻi.
Ai.
That's where he was born.
Ai.
Year 1882, I think.
No wau.
Yeah.
Umikumamawalu Kanaiwa. Polole, 1890 paha? And Natutumama, 1892?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? So 1890, yes?
90.
Aye.
Yeah, 90.
And your mama was?
1980?
1892.
92.
Yes, and her name?
Yeah. Hati.
Aye.
Hati Kolohua. Kaena o Kalangi.
Aye.
That's her maiden name.
Aye.
Her married name, Kaopuiki.
Aye. And where was mama born?
She was born at Kahemano, Lānaʻi.
Aye. How did your family live? There's 14 children. That's a lot of children to feed.
I know.
How did you live?
We lived at Keaumoku.
Aye.
We live on fish. Our food is fish and poi.
Aye. Where was your poi from?
Our poi come from Lahaina.
I see.
And it was a hard life that we lived down there. No stores, no food. We just had to get from the ocean whatever they can get from the ocean. And then when they have fish, they have to sell the fish to go Maui and buy food for us that we can last on. Maybe by a sack of flour and a poi, about 50-pound poi. Mix the poi with the flour together to stretch the poi food for us. And then we don't have bread. We use the flour to make pancake or anything that can come out from the flour to feed us. That's how we was raised with them. For sugar, there was we used honey. They had at that time they had somebody that worked for the honeybee, and that's what we have. Sometimes when they have the money, they have to buy the sugar. And on top of that, the Gates family came and they plant watermelon and whatever they sell out of the watermelon, that's what they buy from in Lahaina.
I see.
Going to Lahaina, excuse me, they have to go on a rowboat, just a small skiff. When the weather is clear, they have to go to Lahaina, buy some food, and come back on with that small skiff. Then we can have the food from Lahaina. And that's our lifetime living. And to catch the fish, we, the children, we have to go and catch the fish ourselves. They have net that was made from the mosquito net.
Aye.
That's what they make, and then that's how we go out and catch the little fish, not the big kind, just to give us food to eat. And on top of that, they have squid, and they have other kind of fishes that we live on that. Plus, when they have too much, they dry it up. And this is how we can survive with our dry fishes. And we had turtle at those days. They catch the turtle, and this is what they do. We can cook the turtle at a stew way. We make add a vegetable inside to stretch out the food. How we get those vegetables? They plant some of these vegetables to put in with a stew. With a turtle. And on top of that, we call it kalua. The kalua in the ground, the turtle. Then when it's cooked, then my parents shred the meat and dry it out. And that's how we have our living like that. The dry turtle meat. And the squid, they get the squid, they dry the squid up, and when time for eat, they light a charcoal wood, and they put on the charcoal. And that's how we eat with our poi, when we have poi. And on top of that, we don't have any poi. We have coconut. And we eat the coconut. We don't dry coconut and the fresh coconut. That's our lifetime.
And you mentioned coconut. Your water
the
at
water.
Keomoku was waikai,
Yeah,
brackish
the coconut
kind.
just grow
Yes.
on the beach. Then.
Aye.
So they plant the coconut tree, and whatever the fruit get, that's what we eat.
Yes. And the water from the coconut
And the
you
water
drink.
from the coconut.
But your natural water
The natural
was
water,
brackish or?
brackish water.
Yes.
They dig the well,
Ah.
and then that's the water we use for cooking
Aye.
and boil for the coffee and what we have. They were depending on the rain and never had a water line or what. Just at the well that you had to get the water from the well and water the watermelon. But if you have money, that you can buy the pump to get water, and that's how they get the water to wet the watermelon. Only certain time, because they never had money to buy all those things.
Yes.
It was hard. That's the life we was raised down there.
Ai. Kupuna, kalamai, and maka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi paha. Kela lei, kaunaʻoa,
Oh,
he lei kaulana kela no Lānaʻi. Maka
ai,
ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi.
ai.
Pehe, he lei kaunaʻoa.
Ke ia lei kaunoa.
Ai,
Mai ke moku me ke kahi wahe o ke moku.
ai,
He mea ulu ke ia makakahakai.
ai,
A oia ke ia kaunoa.
ai,
He lei ke ia no ka aina o Lānaʻi.
ai. So he lei kaulana no Lānaʻi, a?
Ka lei kaulana o Lānaʻi
ai.
ke ia, ke
I-
kaunoa.
Ai. I ko wā o pio, ua ohu paha ke kai o nā kupuna I kela lei? Ua ohu
A
paha?
ole wau
ole.
ike, a
ole
ole.
ike. Lohe wale no?
Lohe wale no.
Mm.
Ma hope aku, a ulu ke ia mea,
Ai.
ke ia kaunoa.
Ai mā mua hele o I ke o moku me kalaihi paha, ike oi ke ano lea,
Ai,
ke kauna o lea.
Ai, we ike no ma ko ke ia mea ulu, maluna ke ia na hele.
Ai.
Hoina no iwa ko ino
He pohue hue?
pa hui.
Ai,
Ka
ai,
pa hui.
ai.
Ma liele I ulu mai ke ia mea.
Tutu, may I ask you, you were talking about fishing. Have you heard about the weke pahulu? You know, the weke.
The weke,
And they call weke pahulu
Oh, oh.
sometime.
Oh.
Did you hear a story about certain weke if you eat maybe
I
moiuane?
heard that.
Can you tell a little bit maybe what you
Yeah.
heard about that kind of fish?
The weke,
Yeah.
it's three kinds of now weke, you know. The one they're talking about, that weke pahula, is the one get the mustache.
Yes.
I don't know why they cannot eat the head of that fish.
What happens?
Well, some people, they keep that. That's their God.
Aye.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
They keep that fish as the God. You cannot eat that fish.
Yeah.
So anybody that catch that fish and eat that fish, they get sick. And that's why they cannot eat that.
Yes.
That's the one with the mustache on.
There's this.
For the other one, they can.
Yes. Did you hear something about, you know, how the tutu would say, e pahulu, e a kauwahi, yeah? When
Yeah.
they eat, if they eat, they give back certain amount, yeah?
They give you certain amount to whom they giving to.
Yes. But that's old days.
But that's the old
Yeah.
way of their living in the time past.
Yeah. Your family was the last family to live at Keomoku?
Yeah, because
Yes.
everybody all moved.
Now, Keomoku village at one time was where the Maunalei Sugar Company?
The sugar, yeah.
Yes. And so it was a large village at one time.
Talamai.
Aye.
Yes, Kemoku was the first. I don't know if that's what the first place that they had planted the sugar company down there. But when the sugar came, the sugar was salty, so they cannot raise the sugar cane down there.
Water was salty, yeah? And so they
too
couldn't
salty.
irrigate the sugar.
The water is salty, and the sugar cane salty. So they destroyed the
Aye.
sugar cane down there.
Now, where you lived at Keomoku, and then where Tutu lived, that was the last houses of the village. Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah. Kemoku, the village was, the houses was all empty,
Yes.
and nobody was there.
Some of the houses
Some
from
of the
Keomoku
houses were
village were moved up to Ko'ele.
That's what's the plantation home.
Yes.
The sugar plantation home.
So from the sugar plantation homes, they went up to the ranch at
To the
Ō'Lelo.
ranch
They
at
moved the
Ō'Lelo.
houses up.
They move up to the ranch.
Yes. So those old houses are actually older than the ranch because they were down
Yeah,
Keomoku.
yeah. There's only 2 more homes that living at Ō'Lelo now.
Aye.
The 2 homes where the Richardsons is living. And the other building they took to Lahaina.
Ah.
That's where that Pioneer.
Pioneer Inn.
That's where that other
Yes.
building is.
There's only one building standing at Keomoku Village now. What is that building?
Oh, the church,
Aye.
Kalanakila Church.
Aye. And was that your
That's-
family church? At
That's
one-
our family church. When we was little until we grew older, we could get married, and then we were still using that church until Tutu Papa my father had this boarding house
Aye.
to make us a worship place for his family. Then he named this church Kalanakila o Kamalamalama.
Aye. In your lifetime, 92 years now, what changes have you seen on Lānaʻi? Or how do you feel about the changes that you've seen here? Has it changed a lot?
To me, I look at the changes. It's not like how we was brought up. You know, when the pineapple field was all planted. So they hired, people to work in the field just to harvest the fruit. I started to work pineapple 1937, I think. I started. That's when they was hauling the fruit with a bag.
Ah. So
Never
no
had
more machine.
no machine.
Yes.
They was hauling the pineapple fruit. And people go inside the field, pick the fruit and pile up on the side of the road. And this is what we do. Take off the crown and then put in a box. So when the truck comes and they pick up the ones who pick up the box to haul on the truck. That's how I did.
Aye.
That's starting that I worked for the pineapple field. Then after that, when the machine came in, that's when we had to walk in the pineapple line to pick up the fruit on the on the pineapple.
The rows.
the-
Line
yeah.
up. The rows. Huh?
Yeah, not the road, but on the machine,
Yeah. Follow the machine.
Yeah.
The boom.
on the boom.
Yes. Did that come after World War II or before? Do you remember?
Oh yeah,
After World War
Af-
II?
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Kind of forget
Yeah.
because
Now, when you were a child, real quickly, there were only about 150 people or so living on Lānaʻi when you were born.
I guess so.
When the plantation started, you mentioned people came to
Yeah.
Lānaʻi.
Yeah,
So the community started to change.
to change, yeah.
Mm.
Today, it's, especially today, they're not the same like how it was like our time, yeah.
So did people, maka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi, wahi mai oi, aloha ke kahi, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So they aloha one another
Yeah.
before days more
Yeah.
so.
Well, that's how we were at the time before. See, no matter what kind of person they are, but we were taught to love one another.
Aye.
So that's how the life was. But now, when the hotel came in, it's really big difference. I don't know how to mention that.
Yes, yes.
Because to each its own now. I don't know.
Not lokahi. Yeah?
Not lokahi.
Not unified more
Yeah.
now, yeah.
I don't see that
Yes.
like how we used to have.
Ho'okahi ni nau koe. Maka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi kupuna. I ko uluana, i ko wā opio, ko poʻi mākua, nā kupuna. ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi wale no?
Ai.
Ai. Pēhea ko manaʻo ko ʻōlelo makuahine? He ʻōlelo maikai?
I ko mākou wa hele e ke kula. Papa ia mākou, a ole hiki a mākou ke ʻōlelo, ka ʻōlelo Hawaiʻi.
Ai. So kalamai, namu haole? What did you just say? Tell me, please, because that's important.
I just telling to him because in my day is going to school. We cannot speak Hawaiian because they stop us not to speak Hawaiian.
Yes.
And yet at home, my parents and my grandmother always speaking Hawaiian. We don't know how to talk because we cannot speak Hawaiian and we cannot explain to them why we cannot speak Hawaiian.
Yes.
Because we have to make motion for them to know that we cannot use the Hawaiian language.
So in school, by the time you were going to school, they forbid the use of Hawaiian language.
Yeah.
You could not speak
You
Hawaiian.
cannot speak in those.
So when you went home, you could not speak to your tutu.
No.
Mahina kauloa ma.
Yeah, we cannot. Because it stopped us not to.
Yeah.
But for us to explain to them, it's kind of hard for us to explain. My mother can understand, but for my father and my grandmother, they don't understand unless my mother have to tell them.
Yeah.
If my mother can understand the English, little, but she learning from us.
Aye.
That's how she can talk to them.
So there were big changes.
I know.
Yeah, big changes. You folks, your tutu, your papa, them all spoke Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Yet you folks spoke Hawaiian, but then when you went to school,
You
they
cannot.
forbid you.
And we had a hard time to learn this Hawaiian language because we have to start all over again and to know what they're talking to us.
Aye.
But I learned that not from them, but I learned from the Bible,
Aye.
the Hawaiian and the English Bible. That's how I learned.
Aye.
With them talking to
Yes.
us.
Yes.
That's how I learned.
Mahalo. And there's one more mountain name. Ha'alele Pa'akai. Yes?
That Ka'alele Kapakai.
Aye.
That's from the old people before.
Aye.
You see, these people that lived before in the olden days, they lived on the beach. Now, they figured they have to go down the beach, get some salt water. The salt, I mean,
Salt,
it's already
pa'akai.
dried.
Yes.
They call that pa'akai,
Aye.
but it's already dry. So they always go down the beach and get bags to fill up all what they can carry. They bring them back to the mountain. When they reach up to the mountain at Lānaʻi, when they look down at Palawai, they saw Palawai, it's covered with white mist, thinking that's a salt over there. So what they did, they poured the salt down. They came down to go harvest the salt down Palawai. When they reached there, no salt.
Hoka.
You see, that's what they call these Hawaiian people before. But that's those days in the past.
So ha'alele pa'akai,
So that's why they call that ha'alele pa'akai.
salt left behind.
Left
or
behind, and
yes.
they came down thinking that was a salt that they saw.
Yeah.
When they come there,
So wahi,
disappear.
wahi mai o tutu, kuhi hewo ke kanaka,
Ai.
pi'i kulo na naʻihale,
Yeah.
ha'alele ka pa'akai. Yeah? So the mistake of the men who climbed Lānaʻi
Yeah.
was to throw away their
Throw
salt.
away the salt.
Yeah, don't act in haste. Yeah.
I don't know how the people live those days.
Yeah. So every place name has a story somewhere in
yeah.
it, yes?